Nothing makes you question yourself more than rejection, especially in the relationship sense. Back in my senior year of high school, I was really attracted to a junior, and she was a really quiet type, didn't have much friends or anything. She walked to class by herself every day, went off campus alone for lunch. She was really quite beautiful and had a really kind face, so it was puzzling why she seemed like such a loner. Well, after admiring from afar for some months, I finally worked up the courage to talk to her and see if we would have a connection of some sorts. Those months were also filled with jeers and peer pressure from my small circle of friends, who I want to note were single for the entirety of the time I knew them. So I really shouldn't have listened to their advice. But this isn't about the advice or what specifically happened. It was more about everything that happened after. I briskly walked to catch up to her as she headed to the last class of the day, as we share the same hall in school. As I approached, I asked her to excuse my suddenness, and I told her how beautiful I thought she was, and was wondering if she might have been planning to go to the dance at the end of the school year. She didn't respond immediately, and her eyes darted left and right, probably hoping no one is seeing this going down, or she was just slightly embarrassed. Her voice was quiet, and the hall was so loud, so when she responded, I had to lean in with my head turned slightly. She said, "I'm sorry, I have a boyfriend. He's in college." She added that she was flattered, and she walked into her classroom without waiting to hear my response. This was the first time I actually ever approached a girl to express my interest, and it proved to be traumatic for many years. I still occasionally look back at that moment, but now it's not to relive the trauma. Instead, I look back fondly because it serves as a great contrast to the person I am now. It made much more sense as to why she was a loner, and she went off campus a lot. She just couldn't relate to us, these high schoolers. I'm pretty sure she saw herself as more of like a matured old soul. Though she was very nice about rejecting me, I never wanted to feel my heart dropping like it did. Dropping and pounding at the same time. It was painful. It was crushing. In my mind, I saw myself collapsing in, like I couldn't stand straight anymore. My shoulders were slumping down and forward. My head looked straight down to the floor as I walked. I fell into a dark state, wondering if anything about me was redeeming. This gloom lasted for weeks, and I felt so self-conscious, like everyone in school that merely glanced my way knew exactly what happened that day, and were all slightly judging me. Why does rejection hurt so much? And why is the fear of it so deathly frightening? Why does our body feel such pain just at the thought that we could be rejected? It might be surprising to know that the physical manifestation of that mere thought of rejection can be remedied with over-the-counter painkillers. It's because our brain associates that rejection with real physical pain. And just like anything that could hurt us, we remember and learn lessons to avoid that source. So when you, accidentally burn yourself on the stove for the first time, every time you think about cooking again, you're going to be much more aware of the heating elements, and you'll recall that initial pain that you don't want to ever feel again. It makes sense that once we were rejected for the first time, that we would shrink away from that possibility again, shrink away from approaching or talking to women. The study that found the neural pathways that process the thoughts of rejection were shared with the pathways of physical pain used a video game as a part of the study. The video game solely excluded the participants from a group of people that they were playing a ball passing game with. The group that were consuming the painkillers experienced fewer feelings of rejection than that of the group that took no painkillers. What can we take away from this study is that the idea that being excluded from a group is an intense fear deep in our unconscious brain. So I get it. I get that rejection sucks and that you don't want to go through a situation like that ever again. The thing is, with physical pain, we can't ever really get used to it. We can't get desensitized to it. Paper cuts will always hurt no matter if we get one every minute of every day. The pain will always be the same. The emotional pain from rejection, though, is something we can create a tolerance for, and with enough exposure to it, we can live free from it. This is where the rule of 7 comes into play. The concept that speaking to as many women as you can a day will set you up for dating success plays off the fact that you're going to be rejected much more than usual. You're going to be rejected every single day in some way or the other. What ways, do you ask? Ghosting is going to be the primary source of rejection for you. So you're jumping around text conversations, doing everything you can to keep interest and build attraction with all these women. And it seems to be going swimmingly. You're staying positive, being authentic and humorous. They seem like they're biting and the conversations flow easily. One of them might seem much more interested than the others, and you think that might be the one you ask out. But the next thing you know, she didn't reply to your latest text. And that's rather unusual. You send another text in a couple of hours and still no reply. Hours turn into days and you realized she just ghosted you. This scenario will play out over and over throughout your dating life. This blow is going to be cushioned with the fact that you're talking to 7+ other women. It still sucks though. You really thought she was the one. But the rule of 7 helps you learn that that's not a concept. That's not real. The concept that someone is the one. That's an expectation you put on someone that isn't a state of being the person is. It's unfair to them and to yourself. Your options are the armor to the unexplainable. You'll never know why a person ghosts you for certain. We'll have a general feeling that we aren't attractive enough in some way. Yes. But rejection can take form in a more traditional fashion. When you attempt to escalate your relationship. I purposely build in many opportunities to be rejected by women by creating escalation points. There's a couple of reasons that I'm wanting to be rejected though. It's not always the case, but there is a lot of attraction that comes with assumptions the other person makes towards you. So whenever you have that first conversation, she has calculated what's awesome about you, maybe how you look or your education or just how you write to her. People think, and maybe she even thinks, that attraction builds to a point where you can finally be comfortable meeting someone. And maybe that's true, but in my experience, it's not totally the case. And it's not something you should hinge your whole dating game on. Initial impressions and riding momentum is everything to me. So what are these escalation points that I mentioned before? So whenever you meet a woman on Tinder or in real life, your conversation needs to be taken to a different medium as soon as possible. So let's say I'm on Tinder talking up a new match. I'll give that conversation maybe 5 to 10 volleys back and forth, and I'll try to move that conversation to Instagram or to text. I really prefer text as I consider it more personal in nature and thus a better escalation and a better sense of how much trust and attraction I built in that short period of time I had with them. You might be thinking that I probably have a high percentage of failures to escalate, failure to procure a number. And the reality is, you're correct. I'm being rejected most of the time. The typical rejection comes in the form of her thinking, we're moving too fast, or that we should talk longer on Tinder or Bumble or wherever we met. And yes, their response might be what you thought they would say. But I see their motivation as something altogether different from what their words are. It's simply a lot of women don't want to meet and aren't comfortable with dating. What they want is attention and validation. As you peruse dating profiles, you'll see some people say they aren't looking for anything serious, or some will write they want serious relationships only. Both mean the same thing. They want someone to prostrate themselves for her, and maybe she will give them their attention as long as she can be sure that they won't be hurt by him. I and we don't have time for that. Whatever issues or problems they have with the opposite sex, themselves, or dating in general are their own problems to figure out. Don't try to turn them around. Don't try to save them. Don't try to fix them. All of us guys have to figure it out ourselves. We need to try to normalize and do it on our own. So let's say I actually don't get rejected and I get her number. Fantastic. I'll just continue to text her like we were talking on the dating app. If you're wondering what are some of the lines I use to get the number, I'll touch on that a little bit, I guess, before we move on. Most women see dating apps as deviant or taboo, and that they really shouldn't be on them or spending time meeting guys. So if you get to the point that you created rapport to ask for the number, I play off that perception of dating apps, the negative perception. I'll say something like, we should take this to text. What's your number? Every time I open this app, I just get this weird feeling. And if they're into me, they'll agree and toss me their number. Escalating to a phone call would be my next goal. And as much as I think I can game and conversate well over text, conversation with my own voice that's my trump card. My thoughts flow so much quicker and it adds more authenticity to the interactions that we have. She might be thinking I'm catfishing her or whatever. So yeah, I want to get her on a phone call, and plus it gives me another point to find out how attracted she is to me. If she is willing to talk on the phone, I know it's a big deal. Phone conversations aren't really a thing for the younger generations. Texting and DMing is life, and phone calls are archaic boomer stuff. But it's pretty essential in my game anyways, so it's a natural escalation progression. The time from getting her number to text her to the time I ask for her to be on a phone call with me can actually vary. And you'll get a good feel of it with your own time and experience in this game. Sometimes it's the same day I get the number, to as late as some days later. So how do I ask for it? Timing can play a role into this. I really want to build up to me asking her in a way that her day is like winding down and she may be getting to bed soon. I don't want to give her an easy excuse to say, I don't have time for a phone call because I have to cook dinner, or I'm cleaning up after dinner, or I have schoolwork. So days of the week play into that. A very social girl won't be free on Friday and Saturday nights, most likely. And college girls have a ton of homework that they like to do at the last minute, late at night. But yeah, I asked for her number, stressing that I really enjoy the conversation we had texting and would love to see how it would go with our own voices. This is another moment she can reject me. And if she gives me some excuse that she doesn't do phone calls ever, or she doesn't think we're there yet, I don't pursue this further at all. Once I get rejected there, I know the attraction I built wasn't enough, or she has no natural attraction, or she's still just looking for low investment attention. From that point of rejection, I let her do all the work. So if she wants to keep talking to me, she's going to have to do all the initiation. Some other escalation points can be done in any order. They are getting a girl's Instagram and getting her on a FaceTime call. Heck, if you can pull off a number, Instagram, a call, and a FaceTime, you're going to be sleeping with her in short order if you keep up the momentum. Anyways, this isn't about that. This is about rejection. Instagram and FaceTime are ways I use just to confirm the girl is real, but also points of escalation for other rejection opportunities. I see rejection as something totally different. It's not exile. It's not isolation to me. As I don't depend on a woman to determine my value and who I am. If I'm single or if I'm in a relationship, the idea of who I am and my worth isn't altered, decreased, or increased. Rejection now is a tool that saves me time to pursue women that are interested in me. My time is not for some girl to be validated with, that she's hot enough for guys to chase her. My place on earth isn't to temporarily boost a girl's ego who's feeling down that day. That's not my responsibility. That's not your responsibility. Remember, we're not fixing anyone. We're not anyone's therapist. We're not their best friend. We're not their mom. We're not their dad. We're just a guy who thinks a woman is attractive and would love to know more about her and see if she feels the same. That's it. Rejection shouldn't be a mark of a lost opportunity, but instead it is a way we get to our goal quicker and efficiently. Look, I understand that generally rejection sucks, and I don't necessarily want people to be rejected, but it's a reality that we all face, and we will face it for the rest of our lives. Knowing that, what happens when you face rejection enough to become resilient to it? Like, what do you gain from that? The main benefit for me of taking rejection in stride is not being afraid to try things when courting and dating and feeling freer to do what makes me happy in relationships. What are some things that I try that I wouldn't if I was scared of rejection? I mean, the most obvious answer is asking a girl out in the first place. But putting the low-hanging fruit aside, specifically, it's the speed at which I ask women out. As practitioners of the Rule 7, speed and efficiency makes the system possible. Otherwise, we would be bogged down by trying to traditionally court 7 women. We should all develop game plans that involve creating a quick attraction at all costs and riding that momentum into a date. When you're not scared of being rejected, the way you ask for a date would be in any way you'd like. The wording you choose and timing won't matter if you don't fear the outcome. Now, yes, we should understand that wording and timing, if perfected, will allow for better outcomes, but you can calibrate that with experience and time. Fortune favors the bold, and nowhere else does that ring true in dating. Women have seen and experienced thousands of men taking the safe road. What you will learn to do while living the Rule 7 is it's all about shock and awe. Another benefit of not being afraid to try things and not fearing the rejection of your attempts is accelerating a relationship to a sexual one. Everyone likes sex, both men and women. I know that might sound shocking to some of you, but yes, women like sex, and tiptoeing around the idea of having sex with a woman early on in a relationship can be a huge turnoff for some women. Women like talking about sex and having sex and being flirty and talking dirty and all of that. And they are important components to all healthy relationships. Sex makes relationships better. Showing you're a sexual person is a huge differentiator. It's going to separate you from other men, and that's what we're aiming for in almost everything we do. Internalizing the aspects of rejection really has empowered me to be better at dating, but it also made my relationships more satisfying for me. First and foremost, I don't fear being out of the relationship. So while I'm in the relationship, I'm never going to compromise my self-respect. That might sound like I'm selfish, and in truth, I am a little bit, but your partner will never respect you if you lose yourself. You won't be taken advantage of if you don't fear being single. I'm not saying you should be a self-centered asshole to your girlfriends and wives, but instead, it should allow you to be more emotionally and mentally stable for her. You should utilize the headspace you freed up from letting your fears go by being the anchor for people you care about. Your lack of fear will be the role model to those who live lives of codependency. You can create a healthier relationship just by understanding you will always have choice. This might mean acting on abundance of choice by extricating yourself from bad relationships. Yeah. Accepting the idea of rejection as a positive value means that your life will be markedly better. I think that is something we can agree that we all want. What does it mean to accept the idea of rejection, though? What exactly are we accepting? Number one, you accept the possibility of different outcomes. What I mean by that, people don't really know how to manage their expectations. A person might think there is only one outcome, and it sets them up for a huge reality check if that one thing doesn't come true. It's like a young person saying, I'm going to be a doctor. And said person can't pass the MCAT with a decent score and doesn't get accepted into medical school. And then what happens to their lives? It's no different than you thinking a person can't reject your advances. And when it happens, it's crushing. It works the opposite way too, where you totally think you have no chance with someone and you won't even try to ask them out. When you understand rejection is an everyday occurrence on so many different levels, then you can prepare yourself for that possibility and ready yourself for the limitless others. The second thing is, you accept the truth. Rejection is sobering but clarifying. It gives you information to work with. Maybe you aren't everything you thought you are, or maybe it's more subtle and you now know that a certain dating approach doesn't work. Whatever the truth is that causes the rejection, without that rejection, we wouldn't be closer to getting to the point where we want to be mentally. The third thing is you accept closure. As much as ghosting seems rather vague, it's still a rejection. Regardless of how we are rejected, it allows us to finally have an answer to the process and effort we put into attracting someone. It surely beats the alternative, which is being some orbiter type of guy just revolving around the woman of our dreams, never knowing if we are good enough or if she's ever attracted to us. Facing reality is tough, but it says a lot about you when you can, and people will take notice. The fourth thing is you accept a new motivation. Rejection is and can be a huge motivator. As much as we all want to be internally motivated, very few are. External pressures can really shape us, and if we accept rejection as the catalyst for change, we are all the better for it. Instead of seeing rejection as someone's attempt at knocking you down, you see it as a parting gift that kicks you in the butt and makes you shape up. We should almost be thankful because rejection isn't easy. Rejecting someone isn't easy as well. It puts both people into slightly awkward states of being. So we should be grateful for the inspiration that they provided us. The fifth thing is you accept the source of strength. If we allow rejection to be a healthy component in our lives, we'll be stronger for it. The tolerance and resiliency we build to it will be a defining character trait that you'll benefit from in all aspects of your life. Rejection doesn't just exist in the realm of love and dating. It's all around us. How do you respond to a client telling you that your company didn't win the contract? Or how do you handle being denied a promotion? What is your reaction to adversity? Do you get defensive and angry? Do you turn inward? Rejection isn't the end of the line for us. We'll just need to take a different route to get to our end goal. I hope eventually you can see that rejection is going to help you grow into a person that you love. And that new confidence you have for yourself will be attractive to a woman that you want. Finding a partner is a process. Let's do everything we can to make that process easier and healthier and ultimately more enjoyable. To close out the podcast, I wanted to share with you a couple posts that were well received on Reddit's dating advice subreddit. In this first one, some 90 people comment on it, and many found hope in it. The post is called "Stop Thinking in Terms of Rejection and Acceptance." The post goes on to say, "If I could give everyone a single piece of relationship advice today, it would be this. Work hard at not thinking in terms of rejection or acceptance, and start thinking in terms of compatibility. It's not about being good enough, not good enough. It's about being good or bad fit for a certain individual." The first plays into insecurities and elicits immature responses. The second stands back and allows maturity to create space for autonomy and agency. You have value, worth, and appeal. The question is, are you a good fit for this specific individual? That single perspective shift will change your life. Okay, the reason I picked this post is it had something to do with rejection, obviously, which was the topic of today's podcast. As I read through the replies, though, I was concerned how many people found solace that rejection isn't real. The author says that we should think in terms of compatibility instead of being rejected or accepted, but it seems that we aren't responsible for the person that is being judged by our potential partner. With this line of thinking, it implies that I can be a stagnant person, and then that one day I'll find someone that is good enough for me and me good enough for them. I personally think this is a terrible take on dating and self-worth. As much as I think we are all people of value, it doesn't mean that value will ever be appreciated by someone we want or anyone else. Your acceptance of yourself doesn't live in an objective world. I do want you to like yourself, but if we are never going to accept external feedback about who we are making all our judgments through our own lens, and how qualified are we to do so? If a person spends years of their life thinking they don't have to be better, the world will leave you behind. People around you will grow and work on themselves by learning new things, exercising, getting promotions at work, culturing themselves. I feel this post promotes stagnation instead of inspiring people to be the best version of themselves they can be. I'm a really confident person, and I feel I had great success in meeting women, but not a day goes by that I don't think I can get better at that aspect of my life. Maybe I can be a little less lazy when it comes to writing scripts for this podcast and thus churn out more content. Maybe I can work on my ability to balance conversations on dates so my date can feel like she's contributing more, and thus I have more success on my dates. There's always something that we can improve upon. And I'm not saying that we should take every single person's criticism of us at face value, but there is some truth in every lie, so why not find the truth in the criticism? The Reddit post ended with a question. Are you a good fit for a specific individual? And I ask in reply, are you truthfully a fit for any individual? There's no guarantee that we find a person that is willing to accept us for who we are at this very moment in time. Let's expand the range of people that could love us by making sure whatever we do, we're doing it the best we can, and knowing that there's always room for improvement. I came across another post in the dating advice subreddit, and it's along the lines of today's podcast. So the post is called, "I'm a 31-year-old man looking for advice on dealing with constant rejection." The post says, "I'm a 31-year-old male, and all my life I had romantic problems due to certain personality issues, mostly the inability to properly express what it is I'm feeling without coming off as too intense or creepy. When I get feelings for someone, they develop quickly and well outside my control, despite me trying to put up mental barriers to avoid repeating those mistakes that I've made time and time again. Well, today I asked this girl that I've developed feelings for out on a date, post-coronavirus. She said no, and her reasons were perfectly valid, and I'm not begrudging her answer. It was a relief asking and getting an answer one way or the other. The issue I have is that I've always had is I feel hurt and like I'm not good enough despite trying so hard to show her how good of a boyfriend I could be. It's really just a blow to my self-esteem. I'm honestly not sure what to do. Every single girl that I ever had feelings for, bar the one relationship I've ever had, has always inevitably said no to a relationship with me. And at this point in my life, after working hard to ensure I'm financially stable, looking after my health and my appearance, being passionate about my hobbies, and having a clear path ahead in my life, I'm not sure if I'll ever end up in a relationship. My life is reasonably good except for the lack of relationships. Despite being the best version that I can be and striving to succeed, I just feel lonely, lost, and unsuccessful. What do I do?" Okay. If he was to ask me directly for advice to improve his dating life, it would be simply to follow the rule of 7 and start immediately exposing himself to social interactions with as many women as he can handle. At least 7, of course. It might sound like a cop-out just to offer that piece of advice, but it really is all that is necessary to begin one's transformation. But yes, there are other things to touch on and address to make sure that I can calibrate my advice for this particular person. Look, I'm really glad he took the plunge and asked this girl out. It takes a lot of guts and results in a lot of heartache, but the willingness to act is a good foundation to build on. An issue lies in how he tried to develop attraction with this woman. The idea that men need to show how good they can be in a relationship, though it sounds rational, it isn't sexy or attractive to women. Yes, there are women that would be strictly looking just for examples of how a man performs in a relationship situations, but that's quite the subset of women at certain points in their lives. The vast majority are not processing a potential relationship with criteria of how a man acts as a boyfriend. Women instead are processing things like social value, image, negative and positive associations of knowing this man, basically things that will impact their own social worth. How nice you are, how sweet you are and giving you can be, how attentive you are to her needs, those are things that will make the relationship work, but they're not primary motivators to choose you over other men. So this Redditor needs to throw aside his main technique of attracting and embrace that what will come from entertaining the attention of many different women. The byproduct of talking to 7+ women a day is a respect for your own time and energy. You'll begin to prioritize your needs and desire to be good at this dating thing over the needs of other people. The respect you have for yourself will translate into a confidence that is going to be a trait that is incredibly attractive. What does that confidence look like? It's the amount of chasing you do. Likely our Redditor here pursues women really hard. When you're focusing on just one woman, you're going to find yourself obsessing and spending way too much energy on wooing her. The constant presence will become draining on his romantic interests. But when there are over a handful of women a man needs to chase, the energy that you put into one gets distributed over a large number. Perhaps you think this puts you at a great disadvantage with all of these women, but not necessarily. Your inability to focus on one proves to all of them that as much as you find them attractive and intelligent or whatever, that you appreciate the time you have for yourself. It implies options, emotional stability. They're rare traits in men. If our Redditor here actually lives this life the Rule of 7 provides, the respect he has for himself will be perceived to others as a range of attractive characteristics. His preservation of his energy and time may come across as aloofness or distance. His ability to say no or maintain a great frame of self-respect will come across as confidence and abundance. There are many dating coaches, friends, and family that share the advice to improving one's dating life by losing weight, creating something, improving your skills, and working on your hobbies. I truly believe that these are bits and pieces of great advice, but they need to be byproducts of the self-respect you have for yourself. Understanding your worth will allow you the time to spend lifting at the gym or taking classes for that next promotion. That self-respect will come from the testing of your capability as a human being existing in a social world and you coming out of it with your version of success. Just heading to the gym and losing weight doesn't make you successful and serves to be more of a distraction and escape from reality than facing a critical world and getting stronger for it. But don't get me wrong. I will tell people, and I will share in this podcast in the future, that attraction has components of physically looking healthy, being professionally successful, spending time with friends, etc. Our Redditor here closes his post saying that he's the best person he can be, but is lonely and unsuccessful. It's likely true he is the best version he has ever been at this point in his life, but that doesn't really mean much. We're all likely a little better than we were a year ago or 10 years ago. If that was his goal, then he is underachieving and his goals are incorrectly set. I made a mistake long ago that if I get my ducks in a row, if I'm financially stable with a house and a car and I work out and I dress well, that is all that is required of me. If you build it, they will come, as they say, right? It's a very primitive part of our brain that pushes this idea. It's like those birds that build those fancy nests and dance and sing around trying to attract a mate by this incredible display of sight and sound. Unfortunately, humans have really mucked up the mating ritual and added layers of complexity that men have found great difficulty navigating. We are all naturally deficient in social awareness. So instead of setting a goal to get the biggest house or the fastest car or the greatest professional prefix or suffix or getting a six-pack, set a goal to maintain the greatest amount of respect you have for yourself and your time and energy. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you all for choosing to listen, and I'll be back with another podcast in the near future.